How you doing, Jennifer? Welcome to the Gym Mafia podcast, man.
It's nice to meet you. Thank you
Nice to
for
meet
having.
you. Absolutely. How you feel today?
It's been a tough day, but getting
Yeah.
through it. So,
Um, I was looking at watching your video, and that was a lot, especially. And what I got out of it is first. Hold on. Let me give a little summary. So you had a situation where you got put on a prescription drug, right? After
yes.
you got off of the prescription drug, you had a addiction. Um,
Yeah.
4 years ago, you found out you was pregnant. While you
Yep.
was pregnant, you tried to get off of whatever the substance was, right? And they
Yes.
recommended that you stay on it at the expense of your kid being born addicted. So you stayed on it because you didn't want them to take your kid. We're gonna dig into the story a little bit. So anyway, long story short, you get into a program called A Mother's Love in Connecticut, and it was a study done at Yale. And what they practice is basically they believe in less drugs and more love. That's the concept, right? And from what I
Yes.
read about it, other states adopting it and trying it out because it equals less time that a kid is in the hospital. They don't want to take a kid and put them right in intensive care. They want the mom to love the kid through actual withdrawals that adults can't even go through.
Right.
And
Yep.
I guess that's a kind of a summary, right? So we're going to start
Yes.
back. So the whole theme of this conversation is fighting back and getting the message out there and spreading awareness to other people and let them know there's different options. Um, or we need to have better options, more or less, in what you've had to go through and what your son went through in the process of that, going cold turkey, in other words,
Yep. That
and
was
and other
terrible.
and other different things that stem from that situation. So let's start at what and if you care to share, and if I dig too deep, just calmly just put your hand up, say no, because I don't want to, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
um what happened that got you on the prescription drug that you was on that led to this situation?
So, probation. I was on probation because of previous instances for my drug habit that I ended up obtaining from being on a prescription drug that doctors put me on. Now, at that time, because I probation wanted to put me in a program for me to follow through the program. I went there. I had my oldest son visiting for the summer, and ended up happening is he didn't want to go back to his father, which is a whole other actually situation that I also have to deal with the state as well, for even putting my son with his dad. But he didn't want to go back. DCF was contacted, and I ended up having to up and leave the program. They violated my probation for leaving the program, and the judge was like, "Okay, so I'm not going to throw you in jail. I'm not going to put you back in the program so you can be home for your son, but the only way I'm going to do that is if you get on a maintenance program." So even though I was clean, I was forced to go onto a maintenance program to appease the court to ensure that I stayed clean.
So that maintenance
So,
program is like methadone and stuff like that. And if
yes,
anybody don't know about methadone, that's it. It's stronger than heroin. Growing up in
it is.
Baltimore, people used to go in the methadone clinic, take the methadone, keep it in their mouth, spit it out, and sell
Mhm.
it. That's how strong it was. So they used to have armed guards making sure they swallowed it, like when you in prison and you got a prison guard making sure you take your meds.
Yep. It's very, very strong. And Connecticut is actually willingly handing out bottles to even people that haven't been clean long enough at all.
So
So,
when you told the judge that you was clean and they said you got to get on this program, like even when you got in the program and you started taking the maintenance, right? Did you give them any
mhm.
pushback just to like not
Oh
want to
yeah.
take it?
Oh
What
yeah.
was that
I
like?
definitely. They said it was either that or I go to jail, which I was facing 20 years total, but they would have been putting me away for 4. So, and if I would have done that, my son would have been sent right back
Right.
to his.
Right. And I seen
So
that you touched up on that a little bit, and that was crazy in itself as well. Um,
yeah.
you mind me asking what you was originally on probation or parole for?
So it was conspiracy to commit burglary third. Um, conspiracy because of the fact that I was driving somebody around that was actually burglarizing the homes,
You was the
even
getaway
though I
driver.
wasn't the one. Huh?
You was the getaway driver.
That's essentially what they
Yeah.
said. Yes. Yeah. So even though I had nothing to do with it, didn't do it, doesn't matter. I
You get the
still.
same charge as them. Right. I
It's
get it.
actually worse.
Yeah.
Conspiracy is actually a lot worse than the actual charge itself, and I had never been in trouble in my life until then. And then after that, I did get arrested for drugs
I
as
get
well
it.
because I went downhill
I get
pretty
it.
bad.
I got like 1,000 drug charges, armed robbery, all kinds of gun charges, shooting the gun. I get it. I understand. So, um, so now we're back at you being forced to get on the well, not that well, being cornered is either your freedom or go to jail, and you got to get on this maintenance program. And of course, you're back against the wall because you don't want your son to get in that situation so you had to get on the maintenance program. So you on the
Yes.
maintenance program, right?
Yep. Now, the maintenance program, I actually had to stay on the entire time I was on probation. So I was not allowed to get off, even though I was giving them clean urines, even though I was doing good, it did not matter. Now, with methadone and any other prescription, doesn't matter. After a while of taking it, your body gets so used to it that your tolerance ends up you needing more. So by the time I was done with probation, I believe I was on about 80 to 90 milligrams. And the moment I got off, I started tapering down. I was like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. Get me off of it. And by the time I was down to about, I believe it was like 50, 60 milligrams, I found out I was pregnant.
Wow.
So, and that's when everything just,
Right.
yeah,
So
came
what?
to a head.
So 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 you so you're trying to get off it. You know, you're coming to the end of your probation, and what's that like? You know, because like when you get off of probation, do you still have access to the maintenance program? Because you just can't stop taking methadone. Like
Yeah,
you need something to get you off of that.
right.
Correct?
So the probation, or the program, I'm sorry, the program, I'm able to stay on it even if probation had ended.
Okay.
That's kind of a different entity itself. But when you want to get off stuff like that, they'll actually work with you, taper you down to what you're comfortable with. They don't usually do any more than about 5 milligrams because they don't want you to screw up. They actually
Right.
do want to help. These programs are good only if they're being used the way they're supposed to be.
Right.
So, but yeah, I was determined to get off this stuff. So,
So what were some of the challenges you had when you was trying to get off it?
because I actually was doing it so slow, I didn't have any,
Okay.
surprisingly. And like I think there was only one time that I had woke up and I didn't feel too well, but I just pushed through it because it's not worth losing everything that I've worked so hard for. So I was like, you know what? I got this. I'm gonna get through this. So
Okay.
it's definitely.
Sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, no, that's okay.
Can you for those of us that don't know, can you explain to us symptoms of withdrawal?
So symptoms of withdrawal from methadone itself, it's harsh. It's painful. I actually, when I was in jail, they took me off of it there, and they taper you very quickly in jail, and they don't care if you are, withdrawing or anything. They don't help you. They make you go through it. It took a good 6 months for me
Wow.
to actually get through it, and I had restless leg syndrome. I couldn't sleep, um couldn't eat. I was throwing up a lot. It was really, my whole body was just so achy. I just couldn't sit still. It was horrible. um your mental health really drops too, pretty
Mm-hmm.
harshly, when you're going through something like that as well. So
All right. So 4 years ago, you found out you was pregnant, right?
yes.
And now you're in a situation where you want to get off of the maintenance program because you understand that you're pregnant and you don't want to have any difficulties with your baby. What happened in that situation where you felt as though you had to stay on it versus getting off it?
So I didn't want to stay on that. I actually, when I went to my OBGYN, I told them I've been working to get off of this maintenance program. I want to continue. I really don't want my son born on this. I've had a child on methadone, and so I didn't want my son. I didn't know if he was a boy or a girl at the time, but I was like, I don't want my child born on this. I want to give him a chance, like my oldest three kids. Like, just let's not do this. And they turned around and said, no, you're staying on it. If you take yourself off, DCF is going to come and take the child the moment he's born, which I didn't.
So the doctors told you that while you was like going to your checkups and stuff like that. So
My
why,
first checkup.
right? So why, I don't even, that's the part I don't understand. That's the crazy part right there. If they know that it could be detrimental to the kid, why would they recommend that you stay on and say if you get off, they're gonna come take the kid? What's gonna happen if you got off that it was a threat of DCI taking your kid? That's the part right there.
So for them, they always think, oh, if they're going to get off of it, they're just going to immediately start using again, which I understand, because there are some mothers that end up not having the will and they just can't take it and they start using again. I get that. At the same time, not every mother is like
Right.
that.
And for some
So I,
cases, a mom becoming a mom or make somebody completely say, you know what, I'm not going to do it. That could be the turning point for a mother to say, you know what, I'm not doing it. And for you, when you first got on, you didn't have to be on a maintenance program. You did that so you get out of jail, so your son wouldn't be in the situation. So they kind of put you in
yep,
a pickle. That's crazy right there. And then, did they even offer any other options?
no, they didn't. They just said that you're going to have to keep going with the program,
Right.
and we'll, take care of him when he's born. And at that time, I had no idea about what Dr. Grossman did, and changed within the medical system for when a child is born with neonatal abstinence syndrome. I did not know. I wouldn't come to know that until he's born.
Right. So how did you hear? So how did you learn about a mother's love program, and how was your pregnancy?
So the Mother's Love really isn't an actual program. It's just their way of handling neonatal abstinence syndrome at the hospital when the baby's born. My pregnancy went okay. The fact that I had to keep going up if whenever they saw signs of any kind of withdrawal, because of course when you're pregnant, babies get a lot of what you're taking.
Hmm.
So with him taking some of the methadone from me, I had to go up. And by the time I had him, I was on a good, like, I want to say about 140 milligrams, I believe, which is a very high dose.
Wow. Dang,
So
that's deep right there because you had to share with your baby. You in turn had to take more so you wouldn't be sick.
yep,
That's
they said,
crazy.
yeah, they say that it would harm the baby. That's what the doctors tell me. And then all with all the studies that I've done and all the reading in other states that actually takes mothers off of methadone and any addictive drugs safely, I was floored and very heartbroken to be
Right.
told that, oh, your child's going to be harmed, when in reality, actually, they're more harmed being born on this than they are being in the womb getting taken off of it.
So basically, what it
So,
sounds like they was waiting for a mom in your situation to come along to refer you to that program, because it all seemed like it. One thing about when you go to the doctors, when you're young, you think they can fix everything, they know everything. It's all a practice. They ain't
yep,
experimenting on you and your child.
yep,
So of course, people, you're gonna have critics out here that don't know your situation, don't know your life, is gonna say, well, you could have did this, in hindsight, money night quarterback, and well, why you ain't do this or why you ain't do that. They're not you in the situation you're in. Nobody know how it feel when you in jail and you got children, especially. It's different for a mom's love raising her kid, and then the situation that your kid was in, to as though you said, all right, forget it, I'll get on the maintenance program, even though you ain't need it, just so you can get out of there because of whatever your arrest history was, that the judge felt like, well, you're an addict, so we want to make sure you're clean. So you did that, you get pregnant, and boom, 9 months later, you went the whole 9 months, correct? Okay,
yep,
9 months later,
I did.
you have a son. What happened when your son was born?
When my son was born, the first about 24 hours were okay, and then it was not.
Wow.
The withdrawal effects that I told you that adults go through,
Yeah.
my son was through. My son was going through that, and I had asked them what they would be doing, and when they would start the morphine taper, which
Right.
is what in the hospitals to assist infants in neonatal abstinence syndrome, so that way it eases their pain and eases them, so that way they're not in such distress. But
Right.
that's when I found out they no longer do that. They actually force the newborns to go through full on withdrawals, saying that the mother's comfort is what can get them through.
Hence a mother's love.
Yep.
So in other words, other hospital, that hospital and others like it, from Maryland, New Jersey, it's a couple of hospitals that adopted that. They adopted the a mother's love. Um,
Yep.
I keep calling the program, I'm gonna say theory, because they believe that a mother's love would comfort the kid through the withdrawals. How ridiculous is that though? Like, I'm gonna sit here and
It does.
hold you, like adults can't even go through this.
Nope.
And I was reading
I'm
on the website, and it's like, he wrote 2 papers on it. So him being a professor, it's supposed to get peer reviewed. I didn't get to read the papers that he published, right? But it's all based on the numbers. And what I got out of what I read is that the less so um they say less medication, more love, right? In other words, they don't have
yep.
to spend the money on medication, right?
Right.
And so the assumption is, if you on drugs, you don't have no health insurance. You understand what I'm saying? And that
Yep.
they're gonna have to write it off, pay charity, but they're not gonna get that money back for whatever treatment they have to do after you give birth, right? And however
Right.
long the kid has to stay there, hence an intensive care, which means more doctors, more nurse checks, and more medicine, and that runs the bill. So in what I read, it was like, well, we cutting the hospital time in half. And all it seems like is like they really don't care. They just really trying to save the hospital some money. It's not based on
That
anything, because
no.
we know what adults go through is a proven science. There's been enough addicts since for like 50 years. That, you know what I'm saying? We know what it does. That's why we got methadone, and we did that in good spirit, and then people got addicted to that. And the key to that was, because it wasn't a street narcotic, we could wing them off of that versus them being on the streets using heroin itself. So all it sounds like to me, at the expense of poor, disadvantaged people, is that we going to save the hospital some money. That's all it sounds like.
Yep.
So, so
Not even just that. I think for my opinion, what I think it is it's to get Anybody that's in this situation, out of their hair quicker, so that way
Yes.
they don't have to deal with us, any longer than they really have
Mm-hmm.
to. Also, there was only 76 days of study done on the babies that he did this study on.
Mm-hmm.
76 days. If there's any more, then I never seen it. I At all the research that I've done, I've saw just 76 days. With what my son went through, it was more than 76 days. He went through withdrawals for months. And because of what he went through, he has a long list of different issues and ailments that he has now because of this.
Do you want to
And they don't care.
get in detail what happened with him? What was his situation, and how is he doing
So
now?
he's having a difficult time right now, still, but he is the happiest little boy. Oh my goodness.
Right.
I love him to pieces. But sadly, for the first probably about 6 to 8 months, he didn't sleep. He didn't really want to eat. He had bowel movement problems. The babies jerk as well when they're going through neonatal absence syndrome. They'll jerk. And I mean, the jerking was so harsh.
Right.
He would literally jerk his body like backwards. There was a few times when he would jerk, I almost dropped him. There was actually one instance which, I apologize, this is really heartbreaking to me. It was the middle of the night. It was like 2 a.m. and I was getting ready to turn him to burp him, and he jerked out of my arms. And I had a twin bed set up next to his crib, um, in his room, and he hit his head against the crib and ended up fracturing. He ended up fracturing his skull from it. That was the worst
Sorry to hear
to
that.
see. And of course, that situation, I immediately brought him to the hospital,
Right.
and they had to send him up to New Haven to the hospital there. And so that's when they ended up calling DCF. And it was kind of funny because the woman that came in, it wasn't funny, of course, but the woman that came in, she immediately saw him jerk. The
So she
moment
saw
she
it.
walked in, she saw him jerk and how hard he jerked, and she was like, "Oh my goodness!" It was like, "Yeah, I'm crying mess. I can't stop crying because I feel like a horrible mother." But I mean, the jerking
It's
is
nothing you could do. Like I'm
no.
pretty sure, like it's easy to be like, I would do things different now. But a lot of times we trust doctors. You know what I mean? And a lot of times a lot of us don't really know how to fight back. Because these are the people, with all the information, all the schooling. So we hoping that they're not gonna tell us nothing wrong. You know what I mean? And it's unfortunate. And that I don't know, like, nah, I get it. I definitely get it. So
That was
DSS, so did they try to so luckily she saw that jerk, because if they didn't have seen it, you would have been under investigation because you already had some previous issues with them. So they already so you got a record, in a sense, a file
yep,
rather. So they can say, well, oh, we're gonna do this, we'll do that, because they'll it's crazy. They'll take somebody kid
yep,
from a loving family, in a sense. You know what I mean? Because
mm,
imagine, God forbid, that they would have took him and put him somewhere where somebody ain't going to deal with him and give him that extra love and patience that mom would give him. You dig what I'm saying?
yep.
You know what I mean? It's not
Oh
his
yeah,
fault. It's not his fault. He ain't get to pick the situation or
no,
the circumstances. He just got to deal with them. And you being mom, this the rest of your life, getting him where he needs to be so he can take care of himself at some point. So it's a challenge. So DSS, right? So they come, obviously he's doing all right now. He didn't have no fracture, no
oh,
concoction, nothing like that. He just right. So he had the fracture, but he didn't have no any, it
right,
didn't affect him in no way.
Right, which was the best,
Right,
outcome that we could ask for when it came to a fracture of the skull.
right.
Um,
Because when they're young like that, they bones not even really fully developed, so it's easy, you know, for them to break something or crack something. You know what I mean? They kids, they break bones. Stuff happens. But
oh yeah.
unfortunately, in your situation, it's like, yeah, it's just like one thing on top of another.
hmm
So
And by that
I'm
point,
sorry.
I was sleep deprived. I was actually hallucinating at one point because of the lack of sleep that I was getting because
Yeah,
he wasn't. I mean, I didn't care. Like, I was just, I'm going to try to help him through this, even though I was calling doctors, telling them how he was doing. He wasn't doing very well. Like, something has to be done. He's miserable. He can't sit still. Even if I swaddled him, he would fight back on that.
right.
He would kick his legs a lot. It just, he
When
was miserable.
when you
And it
first
was
had them,
hard.
when excuse me, when you first had them, did you? So how that work for you? Because obviously through the pregnancy, you were still on the maintenance program. So so both of you guys was going through with like a level of withdrawals. Well, you wasn't going through withdrawals. The baby had to go.
No,
He had to go. You had to go. He had to go excuse me, cold turkey, and you was still on the maintenance. That's crazy.
yeah, me, after he was born, I actually went down to the clinic and told them, you guys need to drop me a good like 50 milligrams. This stuff is too much now.
Right.
Because the baby, of course, is taking a lot of it. So they actually did drop me 50 milligrams because it was way too much for me to be taking.
You had to take that every day, right?
Yep, I have to take it every morning. So, and because I've been clean for so long, I actually get the longest amount of bottles that you can receive to take home, which is 2 weeks. And I've been
Right.
getting the 2 week bottles for, it was actually right before I got pregnant. So it's probably about 5 years that I've been getting bottles for.
Wow.
So yeah.
So 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 you he had all the different. He had a whole lot. He couldn't sleep. He wouldn't eat. He wouldn't go to the bathroom. He had a whole lot of things going on with him. As he started to
Yep.
develop, you started noticing signs of autism. How was that?
Yes. So I had a feeling that might end up happening with how the first 6, 7 months of his life was going, and he
Yeah.
wasn't, you know, hitting any of um the marks that they're supposed
Right.
to, like rolling onto their back or their stomach and sitting up and all that. He was very, very unstable. When he finally was supposed to start sitting up or standing, he was very, very unstable. Um, I mean, as he finally started to walk and all that, he would start to run or even just walk. All of a sudden, he would just fall flat, hit his head, hit his face, and everything.
Right.
And it just showed that something else was going on. We had birth to three, occupational therapy involved, everything. And not just autism now, it's severe, severe sensory processing disorder, which
Wow.
a lot of people will know, of course, what that is. Some people actually have issues with like sound or like brightness or
Right.
even dark. It's all
Right.
senses, but him, every single sense in his body is affected. It does not, not one is okay. Every single sense in his body is completely affected negatively. Sorry. So, we've got that. He has speech delay completely. He is a little chatterbox, though. I mean, like he does babble a lot, but
Yeah.
he's speech delay and he's 3.
Yeah.
He still unstable on his feet completely, still has problems using the bathroom. He still has a lot of trouble sleeping. He also has an eye nystagmus, which is an involuntary eye movement. I actually have a video up on my TikTok showing what his eye is doing. And when it acts up, he'll start to rub his eyes trying to get it to stop because it really bothers him, but his eyes will actually shake really fast back and forth. And it's just an involuntary movement of the eyes, and it happens quite a lot to him. So he'll sit there and just keep rubbing his eyes until it finally stops, and he gets very frustrated because it can last a while.
Right.
So,
So,
but he also,
I'm sorry. No,
I'm
go ahead. No,
sorry,
no, you go ahead. You can finish your thought.
he also has the blank seizures, where he looks like he's fine, but he's actually just completely blank and having a seizure. So he has those as
Wow.
well now.
So, do you have access to resources and stuff like that where you live, where you could, I mean, that he could get the therapy he need, um, any help with him walking, speech, all those things where you live?
So for the first 3 years, birth to three, and the occupational therapists were really the only thing that they offered here in Connecticut. Birth to three, the very first one, she was amazing. And I still miss her to this day. She was
Right.
absolutely great. Um, but sadly, after that, every single one of them was terrible. They were very quick to say, "Oh, he's doing great. You really don't need us anymore." When actually we really do, because one of the other things that he's affected with is food. He's actually still on purees, and he's three. I mean, there's some solid foods that he will eat, but when it comes to big meals, he won't touch them. He freaks
Right.
out. He doesn't like things. Um, if it's pureed, he'll eat it, but solid stuff he has a really, really tough time with. We actually had him on formula as well up until about 2.5 years old. And that's formula isn't supposed to be
Right.
for that long. But it took us a very long time to get him switched over to regular milk, which still has to actually be really watered down for him.
Right.
But I mean,
So,
it's
is this all this is a result from the maintenance program when you
yes.
boil it down to it?
Oh,
When you was told, when it was a stipulation that in order to get out you gotta be on the maintenance program, did the judge know you was clean
yes.
and he
Yep.
still recommended it because of your history?
Because of my history, and because of the fact that I was going to have custody of my oldest son again, they wanted to ensure that I was going to stay clean and had
Yeah.
that extra what's the word you want to say, like,
Extra layer of protection in a
there you
sense.
go.
Yes.
Yeah.
To make sure you
So,
don't in their words, not mine, they're assuming that you will go back to some previous ways.
yes. Yep. So, um
Is
but
it
yeah,
any
for
is it any legal ramifications for this? Because I mean, you could walk a lawyer back, and at some point he gonna see some negligence in this situation to get some compensation for you and your son.
so when it comes to that, I have called so many lawyers, and it's not even about the money. Honestly,
Right.
it really is. I am trying. I've even emailed politicians. I actually just emailed Senator Blumenthal yesterday, and politicians, I'm going to give them a couple weeks at least, but other politicians, they have not answered me back. They have
Right.
ignored me. um it's all about change, because I see what my son's going through, and it breaks my heart to think that other newborns are going to go through what he's going through. And the way I'm seeing what he's going through and how they're handling this, I really truly feel that this is a way of them getting more money out of our situation for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
Because now he has over 20 different specialists in his life, and that is an immense amount of different specialists to have involved in a 3-year-old's life.
Yeah.
So
That is.
um one of the we are starting another occupational therapy very soon, which the waiting list to get on them for with them was over a year. So finally we actually will be getting seen this coming month, which is
That's good.
exciting.
Awesome.
Pretty soon that we're also going to be seeing a pediatrician that deals with specifically autism and sensory processing, and then also somebody else for the speech. So we're getting there. The wait list was just very long. One of the occupational therapists that we did see when he was about a year and a half years old, she actually indulged me in saying that the majority of her patients are children that were taken off of the methadone the same way he was.
So we got a
I-
track record here of it not working and causing this same outcome.
yep. So
So
I have talked to other mothers as well at the program, and their child is either doing going through the same thing or worse.
wow. So what do you think should be done different? So let's get the message out there. What do you think should be done different? How should situations like this be handled, whether it's in the doctor's office or in the courts? What do we as a society need to do different? And how do we handle these situations so we won't get in them again? Because these kids don't get to pick their mom, their dad, or their circumstances. We just bring them here.
Right.
What can
Right.
we do different? And what I mean by
From
we, I mean the doctors, you know what I'm saying? The judges, and even us as parents.
so when it comes to my situation and being in this situation, I truly believe that give Connecticut does not give the moms a choice to either get the help to get off to give their child a better chance at not, you know, going through withdrawals when they're born. They're forced to stay on something addictive. I truly believe they should offer us that choice. Start opening up a program where they can actually help the moms get off the addictive drug,
Right.
and then helping them after that as well. Even if it's an inpatient where they're going to have the baby and the mom there, that would be great. It gives that mom and that child a chance at a normal life without having to be addicted.
Right.
Because and this is my opinion, they're just taking one drug that's addictive and replacing it with another
Mm-hmm.
addictive
Giving
drug.
you a crutch.
Don't find Yeah, for me, I don't believe that's really the best way to handle addiction.
Yeah.
I just don't. But they need to stop this. A mother's love. They really need to stop this. It is causing more damage to these newborns and these children than they even realize.
Right.
And they think that they're fine. They're really not. So
Yeah.
they
Because
need to stop.
did anybody come from that? Anybody from that study reach out to you a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later to add to their
Nope.
research? So that's how you
Nope.
know it's bogus. That's how you know it's
I,
bogus.
I have emailed them. I have called their office. I have never heard back
Mm.
at all. So it's very frustrating because I have done so much research finding out what other states actually help the moms off of any addictive drug before they have the baby.
Right.
There's so many other states that actually offer that. Connecticut does not.
Right.
They will not offer that. And I feel like it's just their way of getting more money out of us, or
Yeah.
just getting their grasp on us to use us for something.
Because see, here's
Especially,
the thing: when you are addict and you got a criminal record, you're a throwaway to society, right? So
yeah,
they make money off of society, people like that in society by either putting them in prison, putting them on a program, giving them maintenance because everybody's making money. So and if we locking you up and you're committing crimes, you're in a high crime area, all the police and overtime, you're pitting their kids through college. You understand? The COs, correctional officers, are getting overtime because the jails is over full. And then now we got all these programs to put people in, creating jobs that really don't help people. But you come in there, sign your name, and nothing happens, because a lot of times when you go to prison, you end up going back. Nothing changes in your life because you go back into the same situation with no skills, and then you just itching for whatever, and boom, and it happens again because you're in the same environment. A lot of
Yep.
people who never lived it, never been in these situations, don't understand that addiction is a disease. It can happen to anybody. Great people done made a mistake, tried something once, and boom, it's
Yep.
over for them. And they couldn't stop. They either dead or whatever the case may be, or they in your situation, and then they kids grow up with different things, and it just it's and then that part of society that nobody cares about just throw away. Then you become a lab rat in the sense of, let's try this, let's save money here, or let's try, because they don't care really, because it's not them.
Yep.
The empathy is not really there. You can't really be mad at the nurses and all this, because they just nurses, so they're gonna take on whatever comes their way, whoever come through the door. But nobody
Yep.
really cares, because people go home to their regular house and their life. You know, I'm
Yep.
sorry that your son is going through this. I'm sorry that you went through this. I understand addiction. I would never judge you, or whatever got you to the point to as though you was addicted, or whatever sent you to jail. You ain't gotta explain that to nobody. You understand? You ain't gotta say, well, just because you got those things, you can't speak on stuff, or you should walk with your head down. Life is life. Life is hard. It's not easy. A lot of us
Yep.
ain't born with a silver spoon in our mouth. Some of us born at the bottom, and we gotta fight our way up. You understand what I'm saying? So don't feel bad or nothing like that. All you can do is continue to pray. Keep doing what you're doing for your son. Um, keep reaching out to the senators, the doctors. Keep talking about it, and hopefully you and other moms could form some type of group to as though at least we could save another kid from going through this. You understand what I'm saying? And not having them
Yeah.
had to go cold turkey as a baby and go
Yeah.
through that
No.
sickness by themselves, where a lot of times people could die from withdrawals. You know what I
Yes, they
mean?
can.
So like to put a baby through that just to save some costs, some overhead and medicine is crazy. But we gonna give it to adults, but 9 times out of 10, they might slip up and do it again because we haven't really figured out how to cure this disease. You know what I
Right.
mean? So we gonna let the
Yep.
innocent baby suffer. And then on top of the suffering, while you was pregnant, it led to all this other stuff that he gotta live with. And that's just not fair. That's just not fair at
Yeah.
all. Like,
It's
his life is going to be different. You know what I mean? And hopefully, as he grow older, he might not develop as fast as everybody else, and he have all these different things. But hopefully, I pray that things balance out for him, and he can have a normal life. Because we ain't counting him out. He ain't no throwaway. You're not no throwaway. And other people like you that had the same circumstances is not no throwaway. I grew up in the projects around addicts, so I understand. So you walk with your head up, and keep pushing the message. Don't let nobody look down on you. None of that. None of that. And
definitely.
and whatever I can do to help, I'm here. You got my phone number. Um, I definitely get it. I could write a letter, whatever it takes. We could push the video. You could do another video, but I think that you and the other women, because you standing alone out here fighting. You fighting the fight, and you need to get
I
with other
am.
women. And a lot of people don't want to, because a lot of people feel ashamed or embarrassed, like, because they'll look at it, because I'm pretty sure you got enough guilt. You don't need nobody to lecture you. You understand what I'm saying? Because you got to sit there with
Oh.
your son. You know what I mean? You don't need nobody to lecture you. You know, and
Hmm.
it takes a lot of courage to come do what you're doing and talk about this openly. You got a lot of people suffering in silence, and dealing with it. And hopefully your voice, if other women courage to step forward, and maybe we could get something done. We could come up. I mean, if we could send probes to different planets, you know what I'm saying? Go to the bottom of the
Yeah.
sea. We could come up with something. We could blow people up. We could come up with a different way that a mom
Yes.
should
We.
never had to be on methadone while she's pregnant or anything.
Yes.
See, one of the things with big pharma, man, they don't want no cure. They don't want it, because if you cure anything, that's it. It's a one pill and it's done. We need to keep you stabilized. That way we could sell you pills constantly for the rest of your life. You understand what I'm saying? That's how they make their money. It's cures for everything. but they
Oh yeah.
selfish. Anything else
Yep.
you want to add in closing?
I just really hope for change. I really hope this really gets out there. People start seeing this, and I know the judgment's going to be there,
Oh well.
but I judge myself and I have the guilt, but at the end of the day, I'm going to fight for better for the rest of the babies that are going to end up coming into the world like this.
Right.
And there needs to be change made. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming on.
Definitely.